I'd never really thought it was anything other than the norm until I got to like 24, 25. I was spending so much of my day just worrying about a certain way I was doing everything I was doing. It would take up so much of your day, add extra stress and extra worry to your life.
When were you first diagnosed with OCD? What kind of led to the diagnosis?
Throughout my whole childhood, I would have to do certain things to feel okay or to feel safe, or for my friends and family and loved ones for me to have like peace of mind that nothing bad was going to happen or anything like that. There'd always be so many different things that I'd have to do to sort of like a checklist. Never really spoke about it with anyone else, but I just thought that was something you do. It wasn't until I mentioned it to a couple of people when I was playing at Exeter Chiefs, and they said, "Yeah, that's a bit weird. Like, you shouldn't be doing that."
What kind of things were you doing or thinking?
So there's a light switch on the wall there. I'd have to click it the right way. I don't know how you describe the right way, but to me there was a right and a wrong way to click a light switch on and off. If I didn't do it right, I had to do it a certain amount of times. If I didn't do it right on the final one, I had to do it more times. Getting changed, I had to tap my toes on the floor before I put my socks on. Left foot first, right foot second, always. I had a certain order of getting changed. I had a bedtime routine, it took me about an hour to get to bed. But it was all because I would think that if I didn't do it, either something bad would happen to myself, my family, my friends, anything, like they'd hurt themselves or they'd die or get ill or something. And it progressed and progressed over the years and got worse and worse, and I'd have to keep doing more things and more things. Now I look back on it, having had some help and spoken about it, that it is ridiculous, because the way you turn a light switch off isn't going to mean your parents die. For some reason, my mind was making me think that was going to have an effect.
How did this manifest itself within your rugby?
It was so ingrained in my life that it just naturally progressed into my rugby. It was in all sport I played. I had to do things certain ways. The main part of where I feel it is getting dressed and getting changed ready for a game. A big one was boots, shoelaces. I had a very specific way I had to tie my laces. A certain amount of times I had to tie the loops and pull the string, the shoelace, how tight I pulled it and all things like that. The first time I ever tried to tie my boots and just tie them normally, as you'd probably tie yours, I tied the left one right. Well, and I tied the right one. I messed up on what I would normally have done, but I was like, it'll be fine, don't worry about it. Tied my lace. In that game, I broke my leg. And that didn't help, obviously, because I'd done it in the week in training to see if it would be fine, and I was fine during the week. And I was like, right, it'll be fine in the game. Broke my leg. That was one of the worst injuries I've ever had. Yeah, it wasn't ideal. It definitely knocked the confidence with it for a while and threw me back a few steps.
Do you believe that you broke your leg because you didn't tie your shoelace properly?
During that time, I was definitely thinking about it all the time. I was like, why did it happen? Was it because of this? Why didn't I tie my shoelaces right? I actually burnt the boots that I broke my leg in as well. Like, if I have to ever wear those again, I might break my leg again. Now I look back on it and think, yeah, absolutely not, no way did it affect it.
What work have you done to kind of try and deal with it?
We have a psychologist who comes down to Exeter Chiefs and sees a few of the guys. We basically sat down about it. He didn't know I had OCD, I don't think, until I mentioned it. He basically said to me, plain and simple one day, do you think the way you turn a light switch off is going to affect your family? Or if make something bad happen or someone die in your family? And I was like, well, if you say it like that, no. And he said, well, I understand that it's going to be very tough for you to do things straight away in games and in matches, because that's going to affect you mentally a lot, and you don't need to have things like that distracting you from what you have to do on a match day. So I tried it in training for a few days, only little things at a time. Like the first day I deliberately didn't turn the light switch off right before I left the house. I was anxious for the first little while, then it was fine. And I think in sport, you never improve massively overnight. You always have to do baby steps, and working on things takes a lot longer than losing things. And it's very much the same with my OCD and controlling that. Like, I felt myself in the summer before the World Cup camp, feeling a bit more agitated. I did feel a few things coming back in, like the amount of times I have to tap things before I put them in my bag. It does take a while, but I feel like I'm in a good spot now, and I can enjoy my life much more now than I could a few years ago. If things are confronted and spoken about, you can get things out on the table, and you can address things, and I think that's the way it's been definitely in my life. Well, I guess I'm pretty open. I don't have things to hide. I think if people are struggling with something, if someone can say something to make them realise that it is other people experience things, other people go through similar things, and it's okay. And then there's ways to get through things. I think that's great.
Do you think your OCD helps you control your diabetes?
I think to a point, yes. I do get quite obsessive with my blood sugars and making sure they're okay, which is obviously a good thing for a diabetic. You want to be as controlled as you can. It is always hard though. You're always learning with diabetes, and one day you think you've nailed it, the next day you haven't. Much like my OCD.
What would you say to people who are maybe going to watch this or listen to this and think, I feel like I've got OCD, but I'm maybe a bit too afraid to talk to anyone about it?
First thing I'd say is, don't be afraid. I didn't really even know I had any OCD. I just thought it was normal, but maybe listening to this, and if something resonates with you, then understand that if you leave it and keep going with it, it's probably going to escalate and get worse and worse. And the old saying is, a problem shared is a problem halved, isn't it? And I think as soon as I sort of opened up a little bit to it and got a little bit of help, I was able to help myself more than anything.
Do you feel like your OCD has ever helped your sport?
Yeah, I think so. I think even with things like when you're practicing, or when you're in the gym, or doing fitness, or practicing my kicking or whatever, I'll always have to do all the reps I set out to do and more. Say I've got a set of 8 reps, I'll always do 9, because I don't want to have maybe have done 7 if I've miscounted. Do you know what I mean? So I think the OCD is not in terms of being on a specific number, it's just always doing that one more, so I can know safely in my mind that I've definitely done the reps I set out to do. There's just something inside me that makes me always do one more. Whether that, I assume over time, as it culminates and it goes together, you probably do get benefits from that. Obviously there's hindrances, and like in terms of how much time it takes out your day and the stresses it gives you, but I do think there's other ways that it can really help like that.
For you, so much of how you've coped with it and dealt with it has been because of your sport and your sports psychologist. So how important has that been in your OCD journey?
The support was really big, not so much because of how much support I got, even just a little bit and pointing in the right direction can help. So it can help you help yourself so much. So even if it's not a psychologist, even if you open up to your mate or your mum or your brother or something, they will be able to have a different perspective on what you're seeing and maybe point you in a direction where you can then start improving and start getting better with it.